I married a billionaire for love, not money. For 6 years, I thought we had the perfect fairy tale. But standing in that restaurant watching my husband feed cake to his pregnant mistress while his entire family kept this secret from me, I realized I was the only fool in this story. If you think money can buy loyalty, think again. This is my story of love, betrayal, and the revenge that shook an entire billionaire family. Stay until the end because what I did next, no one saw coming. Hit subscribe because this story will leave you speechless. I never thought I'd become that woman. The one who follows her husband to confirm her worst fears. But there I was, sitting in my car, watching through a restaurant window as my billionaire husband fed cake to his pregnant mistress. And beside them, the life I thought we were building together, crumbling right before my eyes. If you think money can buy loyalty, think again. This is my story of love, betrayal, and the revenge that shook an entire billionaire family. Stay until the end because what I did next, no one saw coming. My name is Grace, and 6 years ago, I married Daniel Anderson for love, not money. I know what you're thinking. A simple bookstore clerk marrying a billionaire? It sounds like a fairy tale, right? Well, it started that way. I was working at this tiny bookstore in downtown when Daniel walked in one rainy afternoon. He wasn't wearing his usual designer suits or surrounded by bodyguards. He was just a man looking for a book on architecture. We talked for hours that day. He came back the next day and the day after that. Within 3 months, he proposed. Within 6 months, we were married. But here's the thing about marrying into a billionaire family. You don't just marry the man, you marry his entire world. And Daniel's world came with Margaret Anderson, his mother, a woman so cold she could freeze hell over. There was Victor, his father, a stern businessman who saw people as chess pieces. Christopher, Daniel's older brother, made sure I knew every single day that I didn't belong. And Sophia, his younger sister, who smiled to my face while sharpening knives behind my back. Our wedding day was beautiful, but Margaret refused to attend. She told Daniel I was nothing but a gold digger who trapped him with my innocent act. Christopher laughed at our simple ceremony. Sophia cried, but not from joy. Only Daniel stood by me, holding my hand, promising me that our love was enough. And for 6 years, I believed him. We had Tyler, our beautiful 5-year-old son, and despite his family's constant humiliation, I thought we were happy. Daniel would come home from his real estate empire, swing Tyler in his arms, kiss my forehead, and tell me I was his piece in the chaos. I held on to those moments like lifelines, but 8 months ago, everything started changing. Daniel began working. Late, really late. Business trips became more frequent. His phone was suddenly password protected. When I'd enter a room, conversations would stop. The staff would exchange glances. Margaret started being nice to me, which was the biggest red flag of all. That woman hadn't said a kind word to me in 6 years. And suddenly she was asking about my day. Christopher would make these cryptic comments at family dinners like, some secrets can't stay hidden forever. While smirking into his wine glass, Sophia offered to babysit Tyler more often, which she'd never done before. Something was poisoning the air in that mansion, and I was the only one who couldn't see the source. I started noticing things. Receipts for expensive jewelry I never received. Daniel's cologne smelling like someone else's perfume. His touch becoming distant, mechanical, like he was somewhere else, even when he was lying next to me, Tyler mentioned. Something once innocently about Daddy's other friend. When I asked Daniel about it, he brushed it off. You're being paranoid, Grace. I'm just stressed with work. But my gut, that intuition every woman has, was screaming at me. I just didn't want to listen because listening meant accepting that my fairy tale was actually a nightmare. Then came that Saturday morning. Daniel announced at breakfast that he had an urgent meeting at the office. Tyler was eating his cereal, and Margaret was sitting across from us with this strange smile on her face. "Enjoy your day, Grace," she said, and something about the way she said it made my skin crawl. I told Daniel I was taking Tyler grocery shopping. He barely looked up from his phone. "Okay, have fun," he mumbled and kissed Tyler's head. "Not mine. Tyler's. That should have been my first clue." Tyler and I got in my car, just a regular sedan, nothing like the fleet of luxury vehicles the Andersons owned. We were driving through the upscale shopping district when I saw it. Daniel's custom Rolls-Royce with the license plate DN00001 parked outside Motel, the most expensive restaurant in the city. My heart stopped. Why would he lie about going to the office? I slowed down, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Tyler was in the back seat playing with his toy cars, completely oblivious to the fact that his mother's world was about to explode. I pulled over across the street, and that's when I saw them through the massive glass windows. Daniel, my husband, sitting across from a beautiful young woman. She was glowing, radiant, and very, very pregnant. Her baby bump was prominent under her designer dress. Daniel's hand was on the table holding hers. He was smiling at her the way he used to smile at me, that genuine, unguarded smile I hadn't seen in months. Then he did it. He picked up a fork, took a piece of cake, and fed it to her. She laughed, cream on her lips, and he wiped it away with his thumb. The intimacy of that gesture, the familiarity, it told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't. This had been going on for a while. My vision blurred with tears, but something inside me shifted. I wasn't going to sit in this car and cry. I wasn't going to drive away and pretend I didn't see what I just saw. No, I was going to walk in there and face him. Face them, face the truth. I looked in the rearview mirror at Tyler, my sweet, innocent boy who had no idea his family was about to shatter. "Baby," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "We're going to go inside this restaurant for a minute?" "Okay." Tyler looked up excited. "Are we eating here, Mommy? It looks fancy." I forced a smile. "Something like that, sweetheart." I got out of the car, helped Tyler out, and we walked toward that restaurant like I was walking toward my own execution. The hostess tried to stop me. "Do you have a reservation, ma'am?" I looked past her, my eyes locked on Daniel. "That's my husband," I said flatly, and walked right past her. Tyler's little hand was in mine, and I could feel him looking around at all the chandeliers and fancy decorations. "Mommy, this place is so cool," he whispered. "Yeah, cool. That's one word for it." Daniel looked up, and I watched the color drain from his face. He stood up so fast he knocked over his wine glass. Red liquid spreading across the white tablecloth like blood. The pregnant woman looked confused, her eyes darting between Daniel and me. The entire restaurant went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. "Grace," Daniel stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "I can explain." I laughed. Actually laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. It was the laugh of a woman who just realized she'd been played for a fool. "Hello, Daniel," I said, my voice calm and deadly. "Working hard at the office, I see." Tyler, sweet Tyler, didn't understand the tension. He ran up to Daniel, excited. "Daddy, we found you." "This is a surprise." The pregnant woman was staring at me now, her face pale. "Daniel," she said slowly, "who is this?" I turned to her, and I'll never forget the look on her face when I said, "I'm his wife, and you are?" Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She looked at Daniel, betrayal written all over her face. "Wife," she repeated. "Daniel, you told me you were divorced." Another lie. Of course, Daniel was trying to manage the situation, holding up his hands like he could somehow make this better. "Grace, please, not here." Not in front of Tyler. Oh, now he cared about her son. Where was this concern when you were building a second family behind my back? I shot back. I looked at her belly, that unmistakable bump. Congratulations, by the way. When's my husband's baby due? The woman started crying. I didn't know, she sobbed. He said he was single. He said we were building a life together. I almost felt sorry for her, almost. 8 months, I asked her. She nodded through her tears. I looked at Daniel. 8 months? That's how long you've been lying to both of us? Other diners were recording now. Phones out, capturing every moment of the Billionaire scandal unfolding before them. Daniel was trying to explain. But his words were just noise. Then it hit me like a freight train. Your family knows, don't they? I asked him. His silence was my answer. His guilty, pathetic silence told me everything. All of them. My voice was rising now. Your mother, your father, Christopher, Sophia. Daniel couldn't even look at me. The woman. Her name was Jessica. I later learned. Stood up. I can't believe this. You lied to me too. I'm leaving. But I stopped her. No, wait. I want you to hear this. I turned back to Daniel and 6 years of suppressed. Rage came flooding out. You married me 6 years ago. Married me against your family's wishes because you said you loved me. You said I was different, that I was real, that I was your piece. We have a son together, Daniel, a 5-year-old boy who worships you. And you got another woman pregnant. Well, I was home raising Tyler, dealing with your mother's cruelty, your brother's insults, your sister's fake smiles. You let them treat me like garbage for 6 years, and this whole time you were doing this. Tyler started crying, scared by my raised voice. I immediately picked him up, holding him close. It's okay, baby. Mommy's just upset. It's okay. But it wasn't okay. Nothing was okay. Jessica was sobbing into her napkin. He told me he was building a life with me. He took me to look at houses. He talks about our future. I felt sick. Welcome to the club, I told her. He's really good at making promises. Daniel finally found his voice. I do love you, Grace. I never stopped. I looked at him. Really looked at him and saw a stranger. You don't destroy what you love, I said quietly. Then I turned and walked out of that restaurant with my son, leaving behind the wreckage of my marriage. But I didn't go home. Not yet. I sat in my car with Tyler, my mind racing. They all knew. His entire family knew, and they let me walk around that mansion like an idiot, smiling at their dinner tables while they mocked me behind my back. I called Margaret. She answered on the first ring, her voice dripping with false concern. Grace, dear, is everything all right? I took a deep breath. Family meeting now, I'm coming home. There was a pause. Then that familiar smugness crept into her voice. About time you found out. She hung up. I drove back to the Anderson mansion, that sprawling estate that had never felt like home. Tyler had fallen asleep in his car seat, exhausted from crying. I carried him inside and laid him in his bedroom, kissing his forehead. Then I walked down those marble stairs into the grand living room where they were all waiting for me. Margaret, Victor, Christopher, and Sophia, all sitting there like a panel of judges. They weren't even pretending to be surprised. You all knew, I said, my voice echoing in that enormous room. Margaret smiled, actually smiled. Of course we knew, dear. Victor leaned back in his leather chair. I hired Jessica. The room spun. You what? Christopher laughed. That cruel laugh I'd heard 1,000 times. We needed Daniel married to someone of our caliber. You were always temporary, Grace. Sophia, sweet Sophia, who I thought might actually care about me a little, shrugged. Jessica's pregnant with an Anderson heir. You only gave us 1 grandson in 6 years. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just Daniel's betrayal. This was a conspiracy. Margaret stood up, straightening her designer dress. Jessica is the daughter of Victor's business partner. We arranged for her to seduce Daniel. The plan was for you to leave voluntarily so we wouldn't have to pay you a dime. But you're surprisingly stubborn for someone so simple. I felt like I was going to vomit. Daniel knew about this? I asked. Did he know you hired her? Daniel walked in at that moment, and the guilt on his face told me he hadn't known initially, but he'd figured it out and gone along with it anyway. I didn't know they hired her, he said weakly. But then I fell in love with her, fell in love with the woman his family hired to destroy our marriage. Margaret pulled out papers. Here's a divorce agreement. You sign this, you leave quietly, and we'll give you $5 million. Refuse, and we'll make sure you don't get a penny. That prenup you sign says if you divorce Daniel, you get nothing. Christopher stood up, smirking. And if you think you'll get Tyler in a custody battle, think again. We have the best lawyers in the country. You're a nobody from nowhere with no money. Who do you think a judge will side with? I looked at all of them, these people who'd made my life hell for 6 years, and something inside me just snapped, but I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I smiled. I'll think about it, I said calmly, and walked out of that room. That night, I couldn't sleep. Tyler was in bed next to me. Daniel had moved to a guest room, and I lay there staring at the ceiling. Around 3 o'clock in the morning, I heard voices downstairs. I got up quietly and crept to the top of the stairs. They were all there: Margaret, Victor, Christopher, Sophia, Daniel, and to my shock, Jessica. They'd brought her into the mansion, into our home. Margaret was saying, we'll offer her $5 million to leave quietly. Christopher laughed. That's too much for someone like her. Sophia chimed in. Just threaten to take Tyler. She crumbled, but it was Victor's words that made my blood run cold. Daniel will testify she's mentally unstable. We'll win custody easily. They were going to take my son. These monsters were going to take Tyler away from me. I pulled out my phone and recorded every word. Then I remembered something. Years ago, when Daniel and I first started dating, he introduced me to his college friend. Nathan Brooks. Nathan had become one of the top divorce lawyers in the state. He'd always been kind to me, and he'd said once, if you ever need anything, Grace, call me. At 4 a.m, I called him. He answered, groggy. Grace, what's wrong? And I told him everything. The next morning, Nathan told me to come to his office. I told Margaret I was taking Tyler to the park. Nathan's office was impressive. All glass and steel and power. His paralegal, Kim, took detailed notes as I laid out everything. The affair, the pregnancy, the conspiracy, the threats about Tyler. I showed them the recording from last night. I showed them bank statements I'd secretly copied, showing Daniel had spent over $2 million on Jessica. Nathan listened to everything. And when I finished, he leaned back in his chair. Grace, you're not going to get $50 million. You're going to get $300 million plus full custody of Tyler. I almost fainted. That's impossible. The prenup says. Nathan held up his hand. The prenup says if you divorce him for no reason, you get nothing. But adultery, especially with proof that marital funds were used to support the affair, that voids certain clauses. Plus, Victor hiring Jessica makes this a conspiracy. Add in the emotional abuse, the threats about custody, and the fact that they tried to defraud you. Grace, we're going to destroy them. Over the next month, Nathan built a case that was absolutely airtight. He hired private investigators who discovered Jessica had done this before, seducing wealthy married men for money. They found the actual contract Victor had with Jessica, paying her $500,000 to seduce Daniel. They found emails from Christopher, titled Operation Remove Grace. They found text messages from Sophia mocking me to her society friends. But I had to pretend everything was normal. I went back to that mansion and played the defeated wife. Margaret thought she'd won. Daniel avoided me completely. Christopher made jokes at dinner about how I'd be gone soon. Sophia talked about redecorating once we have a proper lady of the house. Every day was torture, but Nathan kept telling me, let them think they've won. The higher they climb, the harder they'll fall. Then, exactly 1 month after I caught Daniel at that restaurant, Jessica went into labor, the entire Anderson. Family rushed to the hospital. Margaret told me to stay home. This isn't your place, dear. I watched them all leave, Tyler confused about why everyone was so excited. An hour later, I called Margaret and I put on the performance of my life. I cried, I sobbed. I told her I couldn't take it anymore. I'll sign the papers, I wailed into the phone. Just please let me see Tyler on weekends. I could practically hear her smiling. Finally showing some sense, come to the hospital. We'll have papers ready. I got dressed, made sure I looked appropriately. Devastated, and drove to that hospital with Tyler. When we walked into Jessica's recovery room, she was holding a newborn baby boy. Daniel was standing next to her, looking at his new son with wonder. The Anderson family was celebrating like they'd just won the lottery. Margaret saw me and pulled out papers. Sign here, $5 million. That's more than generous for someone like you. I looked at those papers, at my signature line, at the pen she was holding out to me. Then I smiled. Oh, I'm not signing that. The confusion on their faces was priceless. What? Margaret snapped. That's when Nathan walked in, followed by 2 police officers. Daniel's face went from confused to terrified in seconds. Grace, what's going on? Nathan handed Daniel a thick stack of papers. Daniel Anderson, you're being served. My client is filing for divorce and seeking $500 million in damages plus full custody of Tyler. He turned to Victor. Victor Anderson, you're being served with fraud charges for the illegal contract with Miss Jessica Chen. Margaret's face went purple. You can't do this. We have lawyers, Nathan smiled. Yes, you do. And they're about to have a very difficult case to defend. The next 3 months were a circus. The trial was all over the news. Billionaire family's cruel conspiracy exposed. Every news channel, every gossip magazine, every social media platform was talking about us. In court, I had to relive every moment of humiliation. But I also got to watch them squirm. Margaret testified, trying to maintain her dignity, claiming she was just protecting her son. But when Nathan played the recording of her saying, "We hired Jessica to seduce him," the courtroom gasped. Jessica testified with an immunity deal, admitting everything. She cried on the stand, saying Victor had told her I was abusive and they were trying to save Daniel. Staff members from the mansion came forward, testifying about Margaret's cruelty toward me. Daniel's own assistant revealed that he'd known about the affair and been ordered to help Daniel cover it up. Christopher's emails were read aloud in court, including one where he wrote, "Once we get rid of Grace, we can finally have a proper Anderson family." The judge looked disgusted. Then came Daniel's turn on the stand. He broke down completely, crying, saying he loved me, that he was weak, that his family had poisoned his mind against me. "I'll leave them all, Grace," he begged from the witness stand. "Just you, me, and Tyler. We can start over." I looked at him. This man I'd loved for 6 years and felt nothing. "You had 6 years to choose me," I said when it was my turn to speak. "Every single day you chose them." The judge's verdict came 2 weeks later. I was awarded $400 million, more than Nathan had even asked for. Full custody of Tyler, with Daniel getting only supervised visitation. Victor was fined $5 million for fraud, but the real punishment was what happened next. Margaret's name was removed from every charity board she'd sat on for 30 years. Christopher lost 3 major business deals when his partners distanced themselves from the scandal. Sophia's engagement was called off when her fiancé's family wanted nothing to do with the Andersons. Daniel's company stock plummeted. Jessica sued the Anderson family for fraud, claiming they'd used her too. I walked out of that courthouse with Tyler's hand in mine, and reporters swarmed us. I made one statement: money can't buy integrity, respect, or love, and it certainly can't buy back trust once it's broken. Tyler looked up at me. Mommy, are we going home? I smiled down at my son. Yes, baby. To our new home. I'd bought a beautiful penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It wasn't a mansion, but it was ours. I started a charitable foundation called Second Chances, helping women escape toxic marriages. My simple style, the one Margaret had always mocked, became my brand. Staying true to yourself, I called it. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Daniel showed up at my door. He looked terrible, like he'd aged 10 years. Grace, please, I lost everything. My family won't speak to me. The company is struggling. Jessica took the baby and moved across the country. I have nothing. I looked at him standing in my doorway. This man who'd once been my everything. You didn't lose me, Daniel. You threw me away. There's a difference. He started crying. Can we start over? Can we try again? I'll do anything. I shook my head. I'm not your second choice anymore. I'm not anyone's second choice. I'm someone's first priority now. My own. Tyler came running to the door then. Mommy, is Nathan here yet? He said he'd help me with my science project. Daniel's face fell. Nathan and I had grown close over the months, and Tyler adored him. We weren't dating, not yet. But there was something there, something real and honest and built on respect. Not yet, sweetie, I told Tyler. Go finish your homework. Tyler waved at Daniel awkwardly and ran back inside. Daniel looked at me one last time. I really did love you, he said. I believed him. But love without respect, without loyalty, without honesty, that's not really love at all. Goodbye, Daniel, I said, and closed the door. That night, I tucked Tyler into bed, and he looked up at me with those big eyes. Mommy, are you happy now? I thought about everything we'd been through. The betrayal, the pain, the battle, the victory. I thought about the woman I used to be, trying so hard to fit into a world that never wanted her. And I thought about who I'd become, stronger, wiser, unbreakable. Yes, baby, I told him honestly, finally I am. They called me simple. They meant it as an insult, but being simple meant being real, honest, genuine. While they plotted and schemed and lied, I loved truly. In the end, their complexity destroyed them, and my simplicity saved me. I didn't just survive the Anderson family, I defeated them. And the best part, I did it by simply refusing to let them make me feel small anymore. Because here's what I learned. Sometimes the best revenge isn't elaborate schemes or cruel payback. Sometimes the best revenge is simply becoming the best version of yourself and living a life so full of joy that your betrayers can only watch from the outside. If you've ever felt like you weren't enough for someone, listen to me. You're more than enough. The right people will see your worth without you having to prove it. Hit that like button if you believe in karma and justice. Subscribe for more real stories of strength and survival. Share this with someone who needs to hear that they deserve better. Drop a comment and tell me what you would have done in my situation. Remember, they thought simple meant weak. I showed them simple meant unbreakable. See you in the next video, warriors.